As the first child of my family, my parents wanted me to be very quick on doing all sorts of activities early as a child. This was crucial because my literacy history began at such a young age. Through experiences with my literacy sponsors, I have become a more confident and detail-oriented reader and writer. My parents and my schools have shaped me by both extending and limiting my literacy. The most important activity to my parents was laying a foundation for me to read. They have told me stories about constantly reading children's books to me in the morning, during the day, and of course before going to sleep. Obviously, being so young, I do not remember too many of these experiences, but there is one that stands out amongst the rest. I distinctly remember at a young age going to our dining table and reading the newspaper with my dad. I was very curious as to what he was doing every morning. This curiosity turned into an interest to read the paper with him. At that point, I couldn't understand most things in the paper, but this activity sparked a want to read, as well as becoming a representation of quality time spent between my father and I. My father would point out certain sections every day and ask different what questions to make sure I was comprehending a little and staying engaged in this pastime of ours. This simple activity was a very important literacy event in my early life. Shirley Bryce Heath defines these events as occasions in which written language is integral to the nature of participants' interactions and their interpretive processes and strategies. This event was crucial for my developmental stage of literacy. But since then, there have been many more events featuring multiple tasks and assignments that have better shaped my literacy history recently. Through the applications of books read to me as a child and the activity of reading the daily paper with my dad, my parents became the first literacy sponsors I had. In Deborah Brandt's article, she defines literacy sponsors as any agents, local or distant, concrete or abstract, who enable, support, teach, model, as well as recruit, regulate, suppress, or withhold literacy and gain advantage by it in some way. As Brandt says in the last piece of her definition, sponsors gain advantage of literacy in some way. My parents gained advantage of reading books to me early and encouraging me because I would go on to become a successful student. My parents set a great base for me to build on my literacy and were ultimately rewarded for it through my good academics. Although I received good grades in school, it has not come without some struggles. For instance, sitting in this type of classroom, writing, used to make me feel uncomfortable and trapped in a way. For some reasons, under certain situations, I felt the need to second guess both what and how I wrote. After working with a tutor, another literacy sponsor, for a period of time, I became much more confident in my style of writing. She was able to help me stop second guessing myself as much, and we worked to fine-tune the process of taking thoughts in my mind and transitioning them to knowledgeable writing. I was able to improve my writing by clinging on to details. I believe that my focusing on details while reading also transferred to my writing habits. While writing, I have always tried to be very specific and want to provide good support and examples. Reading and writing habits have seemed to be somewhat of a roller coaster in my life. When I was young, I truly enjoyed reading pretty much anything. But as I got older, the limitations put on me for reading in school really slowed down my want to read. One of the first necessary limitations that occurred in school was the dreaded summer reading list. This list would rarely feature books that I had a particular interest in. I believe that being forced to read books in the summer destroyed, to an effect, my passion for reading. As I sat down in my room to read required books, the primary thought was, when is this going to be over? What made this experience worse was having to do reports and projects over the summer. Due to my early struggles with writing, these reports, which I usually waited to the last minute to do, became very stressful. I would understand better later that there had to be forced readings done in an educational institution, but the heavy load and structure of reading left me feeling dejected for now. In this instance, school was a literacy sponsor that regulated what I had to read. Because of these rules saying, read this book, not that book, I had to read what was on the list that my school gave me. I felt that my school only counted reading as a book or article that they gave me to read, and most material that I found interesting wasn't considered appropriate for school-based literacy. Reading these books were not as fun for me, and through the years it made me neglect reading anything for fun. Although my interest in reading slowed down for a while, there seemed to be a switch in my life where my parents figured that doing some type of reading was better than not reading anything at all. In 5th and 6th grade, I wasn't very interested in reading anything at all. Reading became a thing that I was only doing at school with much reluctance. As my main motivators in everything, my parents wanted to get me more engrossed in reading. They set out to get me novels and types of magazines they thought I would like, mostly containing sports stories. This event highlights my parents again as literacy sponsors, because as Brandt's definition says, they enabled and supported me. Previously, I had read the occasional sports book that caught my interest, but now I had numerous sources to turn to. All of these books were very inspiring to me. They were stories about kids my age doing well and overcoming the odds at their respective sports. I read the biographies of my favorite athletes, including Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, and Tiger Woods. Their stories reinforced the idea to me that if you work hard, anything you want can happen. This idea impacted me at an athletic level as well as at an academic level. At an age when I was always playing sports, and anything to do with sports is my favorite activity, these books motivated me in games while giving me the opportunity to read. Receiving all of this material to read from my parents was another literacy event. All this new and interesting, at least to me, information really made me happier and focused when reading. The most important detail was that I was reading again. And even though it wasn't school related, it definitely helped my schoolwork. As I progressed, I got books that contained higher reading levels, boosting my comprehension. Overall, this boost by my parents drastically improved my interest, and it encouraged me to try to better understand books required by my educational institutions. Reading sports novels, biographies, and articles is not the most recognized subject by schools, but participating in something of interest to me while reading truly benefited me. I think the fact that I am interest-driven is a good quality of mine. However, it is important to expand your horizons and learn to focus on school-required material. I am happy to say that throughout my years in school, I improved my ability to understand required readings and was able to remain dedicated to my interest.